I'm Jake. I'm 32, and I got married last spring. Not that you'd know it from how my family acted. Growing up, it was always obvious that my older brother, Ethan, was the favorite. He was louder, flashier, more charismatic, and in our parents' eyes, apparently more deserving. I was the quieter one, the kid who got good grades without being asked, who didn't cause drama, who handled things himself. At the time, I told myself it was fine. I didn't want the spotlight anyway. I had my books, my guitar, my own little world. But when Ethan got engaged 3 years ago, the curtain was pulled back, and I realized just how far they'd go for their golden boy. His wedding was a full-blown production. I'm talking private venue by the lake, string quartet flown in from another state, a 3-tier cake that looked like a sculpture, and a honeymoon in Greece paid for, of course, by our parents. They even gifted him a brand new $3,000 tailored suit for the ceremony. I remember watching the whole thing play out, smiling and clapping like a good little brother, even though I was practically invisible the entire weekend. I caught our mom whispering to a family friend, "We're just so proud of Ethan. He's always been the one we knew would make it." I stood there holding a glass of champagne, nodding politely while that sentence echoed in my head like feedback from a mic. The one who would make it. I was working full-time in tech by then, had just finished paying off my student loans, and had even helped mom and dad cover some medical bills the year before. But sure, Ethan made it. Fast forward to last year, when I proposed to Leah. She said yes in the middle of a rainy picnic under a little gazebo near where we first met, humble, personal, ours. We decided early on that we wanted something small but meaningful. Not extravagant, just real. We had a budget of about $12,000, all from our own savings. Still, I reached out to my parents and Ethan, hoping they'd want to be involved, maybe help with a few parts of the day like Leah's family offered. I wasn't expecting a $40,000 gala. I wasn't even expecting a catered rehearsal dinner. But I thought, I hoped they'd care. What I got instead was months of being treated like a nuisance. When I asked Mom if she'd be willing to help with the flowers or maybe contribute a bit to the food, she replied, "Jake, you know we're still paying off Ethan's wedding. You're doing fine on your own." When I told her we were covering it ourselves and just wanted her input on a few small details, she said, "Well, if you're not doing it properly, I don't want my name attached to it." My dad barely returned my texts, and when he did, it was always one-liners like, "Not sure we'll make it, depends on work," or "Ask your brother, he's good at this stuff." They missed the bridal shower. They didn't offer to host anything. They didn't even ask where the venue was until the week before. I tried to brush it off. I told Leah over and over, "It's fine, they're just not great with this stuff." But deep down, I was crushed. I couldn't shake this heavy, awful feeling in my chest, like I was reliving every ignored birthday and shrugged off achievement from my childhood in slow motion. Leah could see it too. She gently squeezed my hand every time someone asked why my family wasn't more involved. The day of the wedding came, and we poured our hearts into it. It was held at a cozy little outdoor garden venue, with fairy lights strung through the trees and music played by one of my old college friends on his acoustic guitar. Leah looked like she belonged in a painting. My friends showed up. Her family showed up. Even coworkers and neighbors came. But as the ceremony ended and we moved into the reception, I realized my parents hadn't even gotten us a gift. No card, no envelope, nothing. And worse, Mom looked bored. Half the time, she was scrolling on her phone. Dad kept sneaking out to smoke and made a point of telling my uncle how rushed the wedding felt. At one point, I heard him laugh and say, "It's not like Jake wanted a real wedding anyway." Then came the moment that finally snapped the last thread inside me. During dinner, while Leah was talking to her grandma, I sat at our table with Mom and Dad across from me. I tried to smile and say, "Thanks for being here. It means a lot." Mom didn't even look up from her salad. She just said, "You should be grateful we even showed up. Your brother's wedding took everything out of us." Then Dad chuckled and added, "He's always needed us more than we needed him. You've always been the independent one, right?" I don't know if they expected me to laugh. Maybe they thought I'd just nod and move on, the way I always had. And I did nod once. But in that moment, something went cold inside me. It wasn't anger, not exactly. It was more like a wall going up. A quiet understanding that whatever thread of obligation or love I had been clinging to was frayed beyond repair. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just looked at them, really looked at them, and thought, "You think I owe you something. But the only thing I owe you now is nothing." I spent the rest of the night being gracious. I danced with Leah, thanked guests, made speeches, took pictures, and didn't let them see a single crack. But the next morning, I was already making calls. You see, for years now, I've been handling more than they ever realized. When their old car broke down, I helped Dad finance a used one. Technically, the loan was in my name. When Mom lost her part-time job, I covered their Wi-Fi and phone bills just until she got back on her feet. I even added them as authorized users on my Costco card so they could shop for groceries cheaper. They were living in a rental I owned, half below market value, and I let them believe it was some kind of family discount. Truth is, I was tired of seeing them struggle. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I'd never once gotten a thank you. Not when I bailed them out of credit card debt. Not when I covered a month of missed rent without telling them. Not even when I bought Ethan a new laptop for grad school because Mom said you have more money than us. It had always been expected. Just another way I was supposed to make up for being the quiet one, the one who didn't get into trouble, the one who didn't ask for much. And now, here I was, married to the love of my life, and my own parents treated it like a boring chore. A checkbox to tick off. Something they'd rather not be part of, but felt obligated to attend just so they could claim they did. So I made the first call to the bank, then the landlord for their place, then the utility providers. I wasn't mean. I wasn't vindictive. I just undid what I had done. Slowly, carefully, thoroughly. And right as things began to unravel for them, they had no idea I was the one pulling the thread. The first domino to fall was the house. Technically, it was a small 2-bedroom rental on the edge of town, but they'd called it home ever since I bought it 5 years ago. Back then, they were drowning in overdue rent after Dad got laid off and Mom's hours got cut. Ethan, of course, was too busy helping his then-fiancée plan their lavish engagement trip to Italy. So I stepped in, bought the property under my name, and let them stay in it for less than half of what I could have charged. I even handled minor repairs myself instead of calling in contractors, just to save them the embarrassment. I called the property manager I'd been using to handle my other rentals and asked her to prepare a formal notice. The lease wouldn't be renewed. I gave them 60 days, generous by any standard, and made sure it was all perfectly legal. Then I told her to start prepping the place for market value rent as soon as they were out. She hesitated at first. She knew it was my parents, but I simply said, business is business, and moved on. Next was the car. Dad's sedan was financed under my name because his credit was a mess. I'd made the monthly payments for nearly 2 years. When I bought my new SUV last summer, I'd quietly transferred full insurance coverage for his car onto my own policy to keep costs down for him. He never knew. So I called the bank, checked the payoff amount, and sold it back through a dealership trade-in. Since it was under my name, I didn't even need their approval. The only call I made was to the insurance company to remove the car from the policy. When Dad came outside a few days later and saw the empty driveway, he thought it was stolen. I know because he called me. "Jake," he said, voice tight, "I think someone took the car. It's gone." I was at work, staring at my monitor, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. "Oh," I said calmly, "no, I traded it in. The title was under my name, remember?" There was a long silence, then a confused, sputtering. "Wait, what do you mean you traded it in? That was my car." "No, Dad. You used the car. It was always mine. I just let you drive it. You can't be serious. I need that for work." "You haven't worked in 7 months," I replied flatly. "Remember? You told Uncle Rob you were semi-retired now." He started yelling, but I told him I was in a meeting and hung up. I didn't block his number. I didn't scream back. I just ended the call like a closing door. Then came the utilities. Mom's phone plan, under my account. I'd set it up when her old phone died, and she panicked at the price of a replacement. So I bundled her into my family plan, paid the bills silently, and never asked for a dime. Same with their internet, streaming services, even their Costco card. All of it billed to me. One by one, I canceled every auto payment. On a chilly Wednesday morning, I got a barrage of missed calls and voicemails. First was Mom, her voice sharp and accusing. "Jake, the internet's down. What's going on? Your father's furious. He can't even check his email." Then another one. "Jake, our phones aren't working. Did the company mess up again? Fix this, please." Then a text. "Why is the water off? Are you seeing these? Call me back. Is this some kind of joke?" I didn't respond. Instead, I sat on the couch with Leah, who knew everything by now. I'd told her the night of the wedding what I planned to do, not in a vengeful rage, but with quiet, clear certainty. She didn't try to stop me. She just nodded and said, "About time." Still, even with her support, I didn't feel triumphant. Not yet. There was an ache inside me. Not guilt exactly, but something deeper. A hollow sort of mourning. I wasn't punishing strangers. I was closing the door on my own parents. The people who raised me. The people I had once desperately wanted approval from. But every time I considered backing down, I remembered Mom's voice at the reception. "You should be grateful we even showed up." That sentence lived in my head rent-free. I had paid for my own wedding. Every flower, every chair, every damn napkin. And she made it sound like their attendance was a charitable act. And then Dad's smirk. "He's always needed us more than we needed him." That line didn't sting. It infuriated me. I'd been carrying them for years. Quietly. Without fanfare. And they still believed they were doing me a favor by existing in my life. No more. A week after everything went down, Ethan texted me. "Dude, what did you do? Mom's losing her mind. She says you're being spiteful and ungrateful. Are you okay?" I stared at the screen for a while. I wasn't even angry at him. Just tired. I replied, "I'm fine. Just reallocating my resources." Ethan texted, "Jake, come on. This isn't you." That part actually made me laugh. Because it was me. It just wasn't the version they were used to, the polite, invisible younger brother who never said no, never stood up for himself, never asked to be seen. So I typed one more reply. "Maybe this is me. You just never noticed." I didn't get a response. Leah's family, by the way, had been nothing but warm and supportive through all of this. Her mom called us weekly just to say hi. Her dad sent me articles he thought I'd like. They treated me like a son, not because I paid their bills, but because I loved their daughter and showed up when it mattered. That contrast made everything sting sharper, but also gave me clarity. Love isn't measured in what people say at big events. It's measured in who helps you clean up afterward, who asks how you're doing on a random Tuesday, who notices when something's wrong, and who shows up when it counts. My parents showed up to my wedding physically, but emotionally, they never arrived. And now, as their world began to shrink, bill by bill, convenience by convenience, I didn't feel vengeful. I felt free. And yet, I knew the storm was coming. The storm hit 3 days later. It started with a letter, certified mail. I'd already given the property manager permission to send it. It was simple, formal, and airtight. "This is a 60-day notice to vacate the premises at 118 Maplewood Drive. Your lease will not be renewed. We wish you well." I didn't even have to be there for the fallout. But of course, they made sure I'd hear it. First came the voicemail from Mom, half furious, half frantic. "Jake, what is this letter? Why would you even think about evicting us? Is this some kind of mistake? Call me. Right now? This isn't funny." Then another one, her voice wobbling now. "Your father's pacing around like he's going to have a stroke. You don't mean this. You can't mean this. We've lived here for 5 years." That was followed by a message from Dad, who went from anger to manipulation in record time. "I'm disappointed, Jake. After everything we've done for you. You wouldn't even have your job if it weren't for my advice back in college. You need to grow up. This is family." That one made me pause. For a moment, my hand hovered over my phone. There was still a small, flickering part of me that longed for things to be different. That maybe if I just explained everything, laid it all out, they'd suddenly see me clearly for the first time. But I knew better. They didn't want to understand. They just wanted to regain control. I didn't respond. Instead, I waited until the weekend. Then I drove to the house, not to talk, not to argue, but to collect the spare keys I had stashed in the storage box out back. I knew they weren't home. They had lunch with some family friends every Saturday at noon like clockwork. I walked through the old place silently, noting the scuff marks in the hallway, the pile of unopened mail, the same cheap curtains Mom insisted still looked fine. There was no warmth here. Not anymore. Just a house they'd lived in long enough to mistake for something they earned. I left a small envelope on the kitchen table. Inside, I'd printed out a detailed list. All the payments I'd made. The monthly utilities, rent discounts, loan balances, grocery deliveries. Every silent favor. Every unacknowledged lifeline. The total at the bottom? $62,500. At the end, I'd written in simple black ink, "This is what never needing you looked like." Then I locked the front door, slid the key back into my pocket, and drove home. That evening, Ethan showed up at my place. No warning, no text, just knocked on the door like we were still brothers who dropped by for football games and drinks. Leah answered it before I could get to the door. Hey, Ethan said, awkward and sheepish. Is Jake here? I came around the corner and crossed my arms. Didn't expect to see you. I figured, he said, forcing a laugh. Look, I'm not here to fight. But Mom's a mess. Dad's threatening to call a lawyer. They're saying you blindsided them. I didn't blindside them, I replied calmly. They just refused to look. He exhaled and rubbed the back of his neck. They said you're trying to ruin them. I'm not ruining anyone, I said. I'm just done sponsoring them. Ethan looked around, like he was seeing my home for the first time. The quiet comfort of it. The framed photo of Leah and me from our honeymoon. The new furniture I'd saved up for. The life I built. They were going to leave everything to you, you know, he said. In their will. The house, the savings. I couldn't help it. I laughed. A bitter, hollow sound. Ethan, they don't own the house. I do. And the savings? I am the savings. He looked taken aback. I stepped closer, voice low and steady. You've spent your whole life believing you were the center of the family. And they let you believe that because it was easier than facing the truth, that I've been the one holding everything together. Quietly. Without applause. Without expectation. But I'm done now. He looked like he wanted to argue. But then he just nodded, jaw tight, and turned to leave. Before he stepped out, I added, tell them the 60-day clock is ticking. After that, I'll be putting the house on the market. He froze, back still turned to me. You really don't care anymore, do you? I shrugged. I care. I just don't enable. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Leah slipped her hand into mine, and for the first time in a long time, I felt light. Not because I had hurt them, but because I had finally chosen myself. But the drama wasn't over. Not yet. Because 2 days later, I received an envelope from a law firm, certified and stamped. Inside was a letter. My parents were trying to sue me for improper eviction, emotional distress, and financial exploitation. And I just smiled. I read the letter 3 times, slowly, carefully, sipping my coffee as the sun crept through the blinds. It was laughable, really. The kind of amateur legal scare tactic you'd expect from someone who binge-watched courtroom dramas and thought they understood real estate law. The letter accused me of abuse of authority, manipulative financial control, and my personal favorite, weaponizing familial obligations. That last one almost made me spit out my drink. Leah came into the kitchen and saw the envelope in my hand. Is that from your parents? Technically, from their lawyer, I said. Well, someone pretending to be one. Should we be worried? I shook my head. Not even a little. I know exactly what I'm doing. And they're bluffing. Still, I forwarded it to my actual attorney, Daniel, who I'd hired shortly after my wedding when I first started unraveling the financial web my parents were tangled in. He called me back within the hour and chuckled the second he picked up. Jake, this is nothing. They didn't even use the right template for an eviction dispute. And the lawyer they're using? Not licensed in the state. I'll draft a formal response. You've got nothing to worry about. I thanked him and hung up, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Real peace. Not the fragile, conditional kind I'd built growing up, always tied to making my parents happy, but the solid kind that comes from drawing a line and standing firm behind it. Still, I didn't want things to escalate into public drama. I didn't post anything online. I didn't rant on Facebook or send angry texts to the family group chat, which I had long since muted. I just lived. Quietly, cleanly. While the 60 days ticked by, the retaliation came quickly and predictably. First, they tried guilt. Mom called and left a voicemail in tears, saying how humiliated she was, how she couldn't believe her own son would turn on her. She begged me to reconsider, reminded me of all the things we've done for you. The vague platitudes she'd always used when backed into a corner. Then came anger. A message from Dad. I'll tell everyone what you're doing. You're selfish. Cold. We let you into this world. We can take you out of our will too. To which I replied, you already did. Emotionally, a long time ago. After that, silence. The kind of silence that simmers. That waits and watches, hoping I'd crack. I didn't. Instead, I prepared for the sale. Cleaned up the property. Took new photos. Had it appraised. It was worth more than I thought, thanks to market shifts and some of the cosmetic upgrades I'd paid for over the years. I didn't smile at the number. I just filed it away under what comes next. The eviction date came, and I didn't hear a word. Not from Mom. Not from Dad. Not from Ethan. I didn't go by the house. I let the property manager handle the key collection. She called me that evening and said simply, "They're gone." Didn't even leave a forwarding address. A few days later, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. "You win. Hope it was worth it." Mom. I stared at it for a moment, and then I deleted it. No reply. No fanfare. Because this wasn't about winning. It was about ending a chapter that should have closed years ago. I sold the house 2 weeks later, cash buyer. No fuss. The money went straight into a separate savings account I opened under my name and Leah's. That account is now the foundation for the future we're building. A new house of our own, one where no one feels like a guest at their own dinner table. One where love isn't measured by guilt or obligation or who paid for what. And that brings me to the part of this story I didn't expect to write. 6 months after the sale, Leah and I were sitting on our back porch, just enjoying a quiet evening when we got a letter. No envelope, just a folded piece of paper tucked under our door. I opened it slowly, expecting some last-ditch guilt trip or maybe a final passive-aggressive jab. But instead, it read, "Jake, you were right. We took advantage. We expected too much. We didn't see you, and we're sorry. Love, Mom." That was it. No grand apology. No offer to make things right. Just a sentence. A whisper of something that might have been accountability had it not arrived far too late. I showed it to Leah. She didn't say anything, just reached out and took my hand. "What are you going to do?" she asked. I looked at the letter for a while, then set it down on the table and said, "Nothing." Because I had already done everything I needed to do. I didn't need an apology to validate my choices. I didn't need closure from the people who refused to give it when it mattered. I had made peace with the fact that some families don't heal. Some stories don't wrap up in neat little bows. And sometimes, the only way to write a better future is to stop rereading the past. Ethan and I haven't spoken since that day he showed up at my door. I heard through a cousin that he and his wife are expecting. I wish them well, from a distance. Quietly, without fanfare. My parents, as far as I know, moved in with one of Mom's sisters. Or maybe rented a cheaper apartment nearby. I'm not sure. I stopped checking, and they stopped trying. Now, when I walk through my house, I don't flinch when the phone rings. I don't dread birthdays or holidays. I don't brace for guilt trips disguised as small talk. Instead, I play guitar on Sundays. I cook dinner with Leah, and we dance in the kitchen. I host friends, laugh too loudly, and live without apology. And every now and then, when I think back on everything, on the $40,000 wedding they gave Ethan, on the silent sacrifices I made, on the dinner table where they said I should be grateful they even showed up, I just smile to myself and think, no, they should have been grateful. But now, I've stopped showing up for people who never once showed up for me. And it feels good. My name is Jake, and I'm 29 years old. For as long as I can remember, I've been the black sheep of my family. Not for any real reason, at least. Not one I could ever understand. My parents always favored my younger brother, Ryan, and my older sister, Emily. It wasn't subtle. It wasn't one of those situations where you grow up and only later realize something was off. No, I knew from the time I was a kid. Birthdays forgotten. Achievements brushed aside. Punishments harsher for me than for them. It was just how things were. When I graduated high school with honors, my dad barely looked up from his newspaper. But when Ryan passed with average grades a couple of years later, they threw him a massive party. When Emily got her first job, they raved about how successful she was going to be. When I landed a great position in my field and started earning good money, my mom's only comment was, "Well, at least you won't be asking us for anything." Funny how that worked out. Because despite being the one they cared for the least, I was the one they always turned to when they needed something. And they needed a lot. Ryan had a habit of quitting jobs whenever he got bored. Emily liked living beyond her means, maxing out credit cards on expensive vacations and designer bags. And my parents, well, they weren't exactly great with money either. So, guess who they called whenever things got tight? "Jake, can you help Ryan with rent this month?" "Jake, we just need a little loan to cover Emily's car payment." "Jake, your father and I are struggling with the mortgage. Just this once?" I was a fool. I helped them. Every time. I convinced myself they'd finally appreciate me if I proved I wasn't just the forgotten son. If I proved I could be useful. And for a while, it worked. They treated me better, not with love, not the way they did Ryan and Emily, but at least with some level of respect. But that was only when I was giving. The moment I hesitated, the moment I needed anything from them, it was like I had asked for the world. "Jake, why are you being so selfish? We're family. You make the most money out of all of us. Why are you acting like this? Oh, come on. You know we'd do the same for you. They wouldn't. They never had. Still, I played my role. I told myself that maybe this was just how families worked. Maybe I was the problem for expecting things to be different. That changed last summer. We were supposed to go on a family vacation. It had been planned for months. My parents, Ryan, Emily, their spouses, their kids, everyone was going. And for once, I was actually looking forward to it. It wasn't even about the trip itself. It was about the fact that they had invited me. They had included me, genuinely, in something that almost never happened. The plan was to meet at my parents' house in the morning, leave our cars there, and drive together to the airport. I had even taken care of a few expenses, booking an upgraded rental and covering some extra costs for the trip because, of course, none of them had saved enough for it. I woke up early that day, packed my bags, and headed over, feeling something I hadn't in a long time. Hope. When I pulled into the driveway, something felt off. The house was too quiet. No rushing around, no last-minute packing chaos. Just stillness. I knocked. No answer. I pulled out my phone and checked my messages, wondering if they had changed plans. Nothing. Then my phone rang. It was Emily. She was laughing before I even answered. "Oh, Jake. I was wondering when you'd call." My stomach twisted. "Where is everyone?" "Oh, didn't you get the message? We left early. Mom and Dad didn't think you'd mind staying back, just in case. Someone needed to take care of the house and, oh, right, we left Max there too. He loves you, doesn't he?" Max, their golden retriever. They had left me behind to dog sit while they were off on a cruise. The trip I had helped pay for. My mouth went dry. "You're joking." "Oh, don't be so dramatic." Emily scoffed. "We'll bring you back something nice, okay? Gotta go, service is spotty out here." And just like that, the call ended. I stood there, gripping my phone, staring at the locked door of my parents' house. I wasn't even surprised. I should have been, but I wasn't. Because this was exactly the kind of thing they would do. And for the first time in my life, I felt something shift. A cold, quiet realization settled in my chest. They had taken and taken and taken from me for years. They had used me, dismissed me, treated me like nothing more than a wallet and an afterthought. And now? Now, they were about to learn what it felt like when I finally stopped giving. After I stood there in the driveway for a few moments, trying to process everything, my emotions started to simmer: anger, betrayal, frustration. The cool morning air didn't help clear my head. If anything, it only made me feel more isolated. I had been a fool, hadn't I? All this time, I thought I was doing something good for them, being the dependable son, the brother who would always have their backs. But when it came time for them to show even a tiny bit of appreciation, I was nothing. Not even worth telling that they had changed the plan. I was about to leave when I remembered the one thing they always asked of me: "Can you take care of Max for us?" They had always known I had a soft spot for the dog. I'd walked him, fed him, played with him every time they went on vacation. It was always me who took care of their responsibilities when they were busy living their lives, and Max had become a part of that. But this time, things were different. I walked into the house, and Max was there, wagging his tail like nothing was wrong. He didn't know any better. I couldn't look at him and just leave him there, but I couldn't stay either. Not after what they had done. I needed to make a decision. Fast. I grabbed a pen and some paper, sitting down at the kitchen table. The room felt emptier than it ever had before. I couldn't avoid this any longer. I owed them nothing. I had spent so much of my time, my energy, and my money trying to be a good son, a good brother, and in the end, I was just a backup plan. I had nothing left to give. So I wrote it all down. "Dear Mom, Dad, Emily, and Ryan, I'm sure you're all having a great time on your cruise. I bet the relaxation is well earned. I hope you get some sun, have fun, and forget about the little things at home, like, I don't know, the house or Max, or the fact that I was left behind without even a heads up. I'm not angry. I'm disappointed. But more than that, I'm done. I've been paying your bills, covering expenses, handling your financial burdens for years now, and I'm done. Every time you needed something, I gave. And each time, I was treated like an afterthought. The moment I needed help, no one was there. So, it's time I stopped being the safety net. I'm ending all financial support from this point forward. You'll need to figure it out on your own from now on. I've already made arrangements for Max. He's staying with the neighbors until you get back. I'm sure they'll take good care of him, as they're much more responsible than I ever was when it came to your family. Enjoy the rest of your trip, Jake, I stared at the note for a moment longer, my hand still gripping the pen. I wasn't expecting any kind of response. I had been pushed to my limit, and there was nothing left to say. I folded the note carefully, grabbed Max's leash, and slipped out the front door. I walked down the street to the neighbor's house, hoping they would be home. They were nice people, quiet, friendly, and always willing to help out when needed. I had never asked them for anything before, but this time was different. I knocked on their door, and Mrs. Thompson answered. "Hey, Jake," she said, surprised but smiling. "Everything okay?" "Hey, Mrs. Thompson. Yeah, everything's fine. I need a favor." Her smile faltered slightly, but she still nodded. "Of course. What's going on?" I looked down at Max, who was wagging his tail happily, completely unaware of the storm brewing in my life. "I need someone to look after Max for a bit. My family left on their vacation without even telling me. They didn't need me, but they still left me to watch their dog." I paused, trying to keep my voice steady. "Would you mind taking him in until they get back?" I can't be here right now." Mrs. Thompson's eyes softened, and she reached down to pet Max, "Of course, Jake. I'll take care of him. You know that. You've helped us before, and we've got plenty of space for him. No problem at all." I handed her the leash and felt a weight lift off my shoulders. "Thanks. I really appreciate it." She gave me a reassuring smile. "You're welcome. Go take care of yourself, okay?" I nodded, forcing a smile, and turned back toward my parents' house. I didn't want to be there anymore. I didn't want anything to do with them. As I walked away, I felt the familiar sting of betrayal, but this time, I didn't let it consume me. This was the beginning of the end. I was done being the fall guy, the one who always helped when no one else cared. I didn't care how they felt when they got back. They would see the note, they'd find out I was done, and they'd feel the weight of their choices. And I would be free. But as I reached my car, something gnawed at me. A sense of unease. What would they do when they came back and found my note? How would they react to me cutting them off for good? I had no idea, but I was about to find out. I drove back to my apartment, trying not to dwell on the anger building in my chest. I had made my decision, but I had no clue how far it would take me. I knew I had made the right choice, but that didn't mean the road ahead would be easy. As I pulled into my parking spot and turned off the engine, I thought about the note one last time. The finality of it settled in. No more backing down. No more giving in. They would regret this. And by the time they figured out what had happened, it would be too late. When I left the note, I made sure to leave it somewhere obvious, somewhere they couldn't ignore it. I placed it on the kitchen table, right next to the coffee maker, something that would guarantee they'd see it the moment they walked through the door. I couldn't be there when they read it. I wanted them to feel the weight of it, to absorb the impact without me in the room to soften the blow. I wanted to be far enough away to let the panic set in, but close enough to see the fallout. It took about 3 days before they finally came back. In the meantime, I didn't hear a word from them. The silence was deafening, and part of me almost felt a pang of guilt. But then I reminded myself that this had been a long time coming. I had given them so much. Too much. I had spent years covering their expenses, bailing them out of bad situations, and shouldering the burden of their irresponsible spending. And for what? So they could leave me behind on a family vacation without a second thought? So they could mock me behind my back while they made all their plans without considering what I might want or need? The truth was, I had never been more exhausted of being their fallback. I wasn't going to be their ATM anymore. I wasn't going to be the person they came to when they needed help, but never bothered to think about when they were making their plans. I checked my phone. Nothing. I wasn't sure what to expect when they got back, but it certainly wasn't the silence I was hearing. I figured they'd at least call me to ask where I was, or to demand an explanation for the note. But nothing. The whole situation felt strange. Like they were pretending everything was normal and I was the one in the wrong. Soon enough, they called me. Jake. My dad's voice was a mix of confusion and frustration, as if I had done something wrong by not being there. Where are you? Jake. My mom's voice followed, this time with a hint of worry creeping in. Where is he? Then, a moment of silence, followed by Emily's voice. Wait, what's this? My sister, Emily, sounded confused, and I could hear the rustling of paper. Then came the silence again, but this time it was thick with uncertainty. My mom's voice returned, only quieter than before. What is this? Is this a joke? I waited, listening intently. Jake wouldn't. He wouldn't do this, my dad muttered, though it was clear that he didn't believe it himself. No way. Then, the sound of footsteps as they moved toward the kitchen. I couldn't see them, but I could hear the quiet panic building with every step. I had written it plainly, and I knew it would hit hard. It was direct. I wasn't playing games anymore. The words on the note would make them face the reality of their situation. I'm ending all financial support from this point forward. You'll need to figure it out on your own. I've already made arrangements for Max. He's staying with the neighbors until you get back. I heard my dad's voice again, this time more frantic. What is this supposed to mean? We need you. We've spent so much money already. You think we can just pay for everything ourselves? My sister, Emily, joined in, her voice tinged with disbelief. Are you seriously just going to leave us high and dry like this? After all we've done for you? You think we can afford this vacation without you? I could hear the panic rising in their voices, and it was like a wave crashing against me. They were scrambling, trying to make sense of my decision, but I knew it wouldn't matter. The words were already out there. They couldn't take them back. The worst part? They didn't seem to care that they'd left me behind. Not once had anyone said, "Hey, maybe we shouldn't have done that to Jake." No, they were mad because I wasn't doing what they wanted. They were mad because I had drawn a line in the sand. After a few moments of stunned silence, the voices started again, this time louder, more frantic. "Jake, this is insane," my dad shouted. "We're family. You can't just leave us like this." "You're being ridiculous," Emily snapped. "What do you expect us to do now? You think we just pull money out of thin air? This is your fault. You've always had money, Jake, always had the answers. And now you're just done," I interrupted, my voice coming through the phone, cold and final. They froze. "Done? What do you mean, done?" my mom asked, sounding shocked, almost hurt. "This is crazy, Jake. We don't have anyone else to turn to. You can't just leave us to fend for ourselves." I leaned back against the couch, feeling a wave of satisfaction that was slowly being replaced by the weight of my decision. It was what needed to be done, but now, hearing them like this, part of me almost felt sorry for them. Almost. "I'm not your backup anymore. Figure it out," I said calmly. "You've had years to make better decisions. Now you'll deal with the consequences." I hung up. They came to me, of course. I knew they would. They always did when they needed something. But I wasn't going to answer the phone, not this time. I let them panic. I let them suffer through it for a while. I wasn't in the mood to listen to their excuses or their pleas. But deep down, part of me couldn't help but feel like they were making this harder than it had to be. I wasn't asking for much. I wasn't asking for their gratitude or even their understanding. All I had ever wanted was to be treated like more than just a safety net. They had used me for too long. Now, they were on their own. I was done being the person they could always fall back on. If they wanted to survive without me, they had to learn the hard way. And that, I thought, was exactly what they deserved. A couple of days passed before they showed up at my door. I wasn't surprised. It was only a matter of time. I knew they wouldn't just let this go. They'd come to beg, to try and guilt-trip me into taking them back, into giving them the support they had come to expect from me for so long. The knock on the door was sharp and insistent, and for a moment, I almost considered ignoring it. Let them stand out there for a while. Let them feel the weight of their own choices. But I'd done that already. It was time to face them. I opened the door to see my parents standing there, their faces flushed with anger and frustration. Emily was there too, standing off to the side, arms crossed, her usual defiance replaced with something closer to desperation. They were all there, all the people who had never once appreciated what I had done for them, now standing in my doorway, looking like they had nowhere else to go. "Jake," my dad started, his voice tight. "We need to talk." I stepped back, letting them in without a word. If they wanted to talk, they could do it on my terms now. No more fake pleasantries, no more excuses. I had spent too long being their doormat. They weren't getting any more free passes. Once they were all inside, they stood there awkwardly for a moment. My dad glanced around the living room, his eyes flicking to the empty spots where the things they used to take for granted were now gone. My sister's gaze shifted between me and the surroundings, but I could see that she was too proud to speak first. It was always like that. She never could admit when she was wrong. And my mom, she was the first to break the silence. "Jake, we don't understand," she said, her voice softer now, though it was still tinged with frustration. This is ridiculous. We are family. You can't just walk away from us like this. After everything we've done for you, everything you've done for me." I repeated, letting the words hang in the air. "What have you done for me exactly? Let me think. You've used me for money. You've expected me to drop everything when you need help. But when it's my turn to ask for something, I'm ignored, or dismissed as the problem. I didn't raise my voice, but I could feel the weight of each word hitting harder than any shout could. This wasn't about me being angry anymore. This was about me finally standing up for myself. You think I owe you something because you're my family? I continued, my voice steady, though my heart was pounding in my chest. You think that means I should just let you walk all over me because we are related? That's not how this works. That's never how it's worked. My mom opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off, raising my hand. You had all the chances in the world to fix this. You had years to be better, to not use me like a cash machine, to not make me feel like I'm the one who has to carry everyone's weight while you sit back and spend my money on your vacations, your new cars, and whatever else you wanted. But you didn't care, did you? I could feel the shift in the room. My dad's face, usually so certain and proud, was starting to crumble. Emily looked away, guilt starting to creep in around the edges of her tough exterior. She had always sided with them, always found ways to make me the scapegoat. But now, the realization was setting in that maybe, just maybe, I wasn't the villain here. My dad cleared his throat, trying to regain his composure. Jake, this is unfair. We've always been there for you, through everything. We've supported you. You've used me. I interrupted. And the worst part is, you don't even realize it. You think I'm supposed to just forgive you because you're my parents? Because you're my sister? No. I've been carrying this family for too long, and I'm done. A heavy silence fell over the room. My parents were frozen, caught in the web of their own selfishness, and Emily, standing in the corner, looked like she was about to say something. Probably something defensive, something to justify everything they'd done, but I wasn't interested in hearing it. I wasn't here to listen to excuses anymore. I'm done, I said, taking a deep breath. I'm done being the one you come to when you mess up. I'm done bailing you out. I'm done carrying your weight. If you want to keep acting like I'm just your personal bank account, then you're going to have to do it without me. But I'm not giving you a cent, not anymore. It felt liberating, the weight lifting off my shoulders as I spoke the words that had been building up inside me for years. For so long, I had been too afraid to say what needed to be said, too afraid that if I stood up for myself, I'd lose my family. But the truth was, I had already lost them. They had lost me the moment they started treating me like an afterthought. You can't do this, Jake, Emily said, her voice trembling slightly. She was no longer the smug sister who thought everything revolved around her. Now, she was just a daughter and a sister who had pushed her luck too far. You're not being fair. You've always been the one to fix things. You're the one who always comes through. Well, not anymore, I said simply. I'm not going to be your crutch. You're going to have to learn how to stand on your own. For a moment, the room was silent again. My parents were staring at me, their expressions a mix of shock, disbelief, and something else, regret, maybe. But it was too late for that now. They had made their choices. They had treated me like a tool, not a person, and now I was walking away. My dad was the first to speak again, his voice quieter now. Jake, please, we need you. I'm sorry, but no. I replied, my voice firm. You need to figure things out for yourselves. You've had every opportunity to do the right thing, and now it's too late. They stood there for a long moment, looking like they had been punched in the gut. I could see the realization dawning on their faces, and part of me almost felt bad for them, but not enough to change my mind. This is what happens when you treat people like they don't matter, I said, my voice softening, but not my resolve. You don't get to just come back and expect everything to be okay because you're my family. That's not how respect works. You've lost it. They didn't say anything else. There was nothing left to say. I watched them walk out the door, heads hanging low, their pride shattered in ways they never saw coming. I didn't feel satisfaction or triumph. In fact, I felt empty. But it was the right thing to do. I spent the next few hours pacing around my house, trying to clear my mind, trying to figure out if I had made the right call. The silence that followed felt like a weight, but deep down, I knew I had made a decision I wouldn't regret. I finally sat down at my desk and pulled up this post. I'm not sure if I told the story the way I wanted to, or if I had even done the right thing, but I wanted to hear from you all. Was I wrong to cut them off? Did I go too far? Or did I finally stand up for myself the way I should have all along? I'd really like to hear your thoughts.